You're listening to Fighting Game Follies.
It's the #1 podcast for low-level player opinions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Round one.
Hello to all my masters, grapplers, and set play psychopaths, Wi-Fi warriors, O2ers, tournament organizers, streamers, recorders, developers, everyone in the entire FGC scope. What is going on? It is your boy Grief for Games, Easy Skyward, Games.png, whatever I'm going by in this week's tournament run, and welcome back to another episode of the Fighting Game Follies, episode 17, where we don't really have that a whole lot to talk about since the Street Fighter 6 like tour, or like it was just a World Tour showcase, but it was still a lot of news that we got. Some news that obviously I want to talk about. I wouldn't be talking about it in this week's episode. I was supposed to cover this last week, but my internet just likes playing like tricks on me and everything. And plus also a couple other things came out that not necessarily was more pressing, but I would like to go check out like, later on. So with that out the way, please sit back, relax. If you're like doing your homework, then please, I'm telling you, the answer is B right now. Like, don't listen to what your notes say. The answer is B. If you're driving, safe travels and everything. Let's get started with today's episode of the Fighting Game Follies, which is probably going to be the last bit of pre-release Street Fighter news that we talk about until the game actually comes out, because it is slated to come out in June. June 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, around the time that the what is it? The movie, the Spider-Verse movie is also supposed to drop, which I'm really interested for. And also, really quickly, I forgot to actually mention this, but like, I did get some teeth work done, so if it sounds like I'm slurring my words or something, then like, you guys know why. It's still it's weird to, like, I'm not used to like speaking with this stuff like in my mouth, so yeah. But anyway, World Tour. Let's just like talk about it. Let's just like get my feelings off the table for it. World Tour mode actually is like really cool. It's really interesting. Like, I was already interested in the fact of like the whole create a character, like build a moveset like type of thing. I thought that was like a really cool idea, and I thought that was something interesting that like, isn't necessarily done a whole lot of times. And if it is done, it's normally to this extent, because the amount of customization that you have of like not only your character but like also the stuff in game as well is actually like really insane and like really cool. And it's also sort of like nice to see how far Capcom is sort of like taking it in terms of like just the entire idea itself. But I feel like I'm slightly jumping the gun a tiny bit here because I want to talk about the entire showcase in its entirety. First off, Lil Wayne. Why was bro there? I'm so confused. Dude was just like, why was Broseph just like in the tour? Understand. I don't understand why he was needed to be there. I guess his inclusion was I don't know. I was just so confused, like when I saw the, I guess, trailer for this, and then it was like, "Hey, Lil Wayne's gonna be here," and it's like, why is Lil Wayne here? What did he add? Why was he needed to? Was it like a ploy for? Like, was it like a talking boy to try and get us to like really tune in and see what he had to show, or did he like honestly want to be there? I don't know. I was confused. But Lil Weezy being on a Street Fighter like showcase, it was a little delicate surprise. He didn't really do all too much. He wasn't really present, probably because like they'd have to pay a fortune for him. But still, him being there was like kind of, it was a nice little surprise. But overall though, World Tour mode does look really cool and interesting, just going off of like the entire concept of it and everything. Essentially, what you do is like you make a custom character that's like been shown off like a bunch of times in the thing. You make a custom character. That custom character goes out and explores the world of Metro City. It's very weird because it's sort of like an RPG in a sense, but at the same time, it's also like I don't know how to like really explain it, because it's an RPG fighting game, because you're able to like change your class, and class in this case being like moveset and like everything that you do. You're also able to like combine special moves and like movesets on top of, or not movesets, but like you're able to combine special moves with certain movesets, which is like it makes for all types of abominations. So you can get things like Dawson teleport into like spinning power driver like EX or something, which is like very, very terrifying. And I would like to see like some of the abomination of movesets that like the fan base and like just everyone is able to come up with, because some of these things like are very much stinking of illegal activity right here. But overall though, like some of the things in it are like very weird and interesting, I guess, because there's also like a mission mode thing that you're able to do, or not mission mode per se, but like there's a skill tree. You can like get certain masters, and then like I was saying, masters is sort of like the classes of like being able to like adopt that character's move set. So for instance, if Chung Li is the master that I'm studying under, then I like use Chung Li's like move sets, i.e. like her normals and everything. The thing that you really are able to customize though are like the specials, which is like a very big feature that they wanted to like sort of showcase the fact that you can have like multiple like specials of different kinds like on the same character. So, for example, you can have a like Ryu or Ken Hadouken on top of like Luke Fireball. I don't know like what the official like name for it is, and then like also Guile Sonic Boom on top of that, which is like kind of insane. And also very weird as to like obviously it like sort of brings questions into like why would you have three fireballs when you only have like four sets for a move set? Which yeah, by the way, you only have four sets for a move set. I forgot to mention that. I think it's either like four or five. But I know that it's not like a whole lot to like really mess around with. So yeah, ultimately though, I think this is probably going to be like the most customization that you'll be able to have like with the thing, being able to like choose a master and then like I said earlier, just come up with like straight illegal move sets and everything. I also want to see more of like how the skill tree sort of factors into it because looking at it right now, it says or like just looking at like the skill tree stuff that we get right now, obviously it gets things like you increase more defense, increase attack, you get more slots for special moves and everything. Like it's things like that. And I'm pretty sure this also functions into the special moves that you're able to use out in the world, which that's also another thing that like I guess I forgot to mention, or I guess I'm mentioning now. You are able to use the special world, like the special moves out in like the real world, which like cost I think like drive bar or like drive meter or something that they called it. I don't remember exactly, but essentially it takes up a resource, and I'm pretty sure you have to recharge that resource either by waiting or by like something, I don't know. Um, from what it seems right now, yeah, it's on a bar system similar to like the actual drive brush mechanic. So that's kind of cool. Um, also just looking at this footage, just like so God, this game is so beautiful. I don't know if this is like shot on like a PS5 or a high-end like PC or something, but like God, this game is amazing. Like this is probably just me, like, cause I'm like a super weirdo, but I don't know if you ever had those days where like you just boot up GTA or like some sort of like real life game or something and would just like walk around like a normal person and then just like live out a life and like not follow the objective of the game at all. I know that like the Legend of Zelda, like the first, or not the first one, but Breath of the Wild, it has like a thing where you're able to build a house and like make a whole little village and whatnot, and like little like immersion things like that where you can like live out life. That's just so that I know for a fact that'll be perfect for this game, especially since it's like it's taking, I guess I would say more of a laid back manner, especially since like the way that it's also trying to like show off like features and like actually show you how to play the game and everything because this game or specifically World Tour mode is very much trying to like it's a new approach to like showing you how to play the game, which I think I sort of want to talk about like more once we actually get like our hands fully on the World Tour mode and like the entire thing because I remember seeing back in one of the trailers that they dropped initially that there is a thing that you're able to do where it like required you to like cook a meal and then in that meal you had to do like not the Hadouken input. Like you had to use the fireball like input to like successfully cook it, which is like I want to sort of go more into like that how this is sort of teaching newer fighting game players how to like do things like throw a fireball or like how to like DP or something. It's like it's immersive ways to teach the game to people who would like if you're trying to teach it in the context of the game itself, I feel like it would be like relatively hard. But like I said before, I sort of would have to wait and see until we get like the entirety of the world tour mode. We did get like I think the first chapter of it, which also sort of like raised I guess eyebrows as to like how this is going to be pushed out. Like how many chapters are there in the world tour mode? Is there like an overarching story in it? Because like as it stands right now, Street Fighter Six's story has sort of been like not necessarily up in arms per se, but like we don't really know anything about it, so we don't know if this is like an arcade or not an arcade, but like because obviously there's going to be an arcade mode, but like is there going to be like an overarching like story like mode like how Street Fighter 5 and 4 and like the other games prior have had? And like is it also going to take the same format as like 4 and 5 also have? But outside of that though, like Metro City looks good. I think the mode itself looks like really solid. You are able to like just beef randomly with like people, which I think is like the funniest thing ever. Uh, because you can just like you can just go up to someone and then be like, "Yo, we're throwing hands." Obviously, you can't do it with like everyone, but like you can just go up to a random person and then just like, "Hey, we're gonna box," and then boom. Um, so yeah, I kind of like that. That's funny. What else is there really to talk about for this? I guess the time stop thing. I don't know. The whole time stop thing that they're showing or like trying to show off of like the engaging and like get an upper hand on like fights. It's cool, I guess. Like I wouldn't really waste anything for it. I just like probably plan ahead of time for like I don't know. It's just some of the choices, like I said earlier, I would have to like get more of a viewing for and like I'd have to get a feel for myself in like the actual game since like I've said in previous episodes, I never got the chance to try out the closed betas which kind of blow. And before you ask, yes, I will be talking about the demo shortly. But just I'm really excited for this. This mode looks really good. It looks really polished. I'm sort of calling into question if there's going to be like little DLC packs that sort of come with it because like I said earlier there was like the we did get access to the first chapter for the game, so I wonder is there going to be like more chapters to it and everything, and like are new characters going to open up access to like new parts of the world? Because that actually, yeah, that is the other thing that I should probably mention. So outside of just Metro City, you are able to also explore like other parts of the world, obviously, which makes sense. I mean, Street Fighter is ultimately a game about like traveling the world and finding strong opponents. The example that they give off is, I think it's because I don't want to seem like inappropriate and like label it as the wrong thing, but I know that they go to Italy for Marissa, and then they also go to another place which also has a very similar, like, big open world expansion like style to Metro City. So there are very much going to be like big metro city style spots, and then there are also going to be like the smaller spots of like, oh, I can only do like a few things here. I can't really do anything else. So yeah, I'm sort of looking forward to how they're going to like move. Actually, yeah, here it is right here. There's Metro City, Old Nashal, the Coliseo, King Street, Ranger's Hut, Bathers Beach, and Gembu Temple. Where is it where cause there's damned, there's that whole fight. I think this might be not Gumboos, but I don't know. I'll figure this out like probably some other time. But or like probably when, like I said, we actually get the full like thing out to play. So I don't know. Oh, Nashel. Okay, yeah, this is Nashel's spot. I have the trailer up right. I'm like watching through the trailer right now, just to, like make sure that I'm not looking goofy. Unlike this dude right here, who's currently fighting two fridges. But yeah, just this game looks really good. This game looks phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to a World Tour mode. I'm really looking forward to see how this pushes the how will World Tour mode affect Street Fighter 6's legacy like in the future, and what ultimately will this birth for the like how will this culminate into like new and innovative processes in the rest of the fighting game community and specifically for developers, because I know for a fact something this inventive is not going to go unnoticed, or like not going to be something that is moved, like not be used as like something in a step forward for just like Capcom or just like other fighting games in general, because the amount of like immersion and like just like how like fluid and nice everything feels, or I can't say feels, but like how everything seems and whatnot, is just way too good to pass up of a chance to like not want to explore that like a tiny bit more. At the very least, I feel like this probably isn't going to be the last time we see something similar to World Tour mode in like a fighting game, because I also know that there is something similar to this in them's fighting herds, but this is like the first like big like triple A company to do something like this. So depending on like what how other indie titles like might use this as inspiration, or if other like triple A titles might use this as like, oh okay, they have this, I should probably do something like that in my next game. I probably doubt it's going to be anytime soon, maybe for something like DOA 6, who knows. But maybe this might be used for like some sort of like moving forward for the rest of the like companies and developers. But I just think it's good. I have a tiny bit of gripes with it, but not gripes that are like big enough to like really warrant me not wanting to play it, or like necessarily warrant me like talking about it. So overall, mode looks good. Really interested to play it. I'm really hyped to actually play it. It seems like probably the best way to get into a fighting game. So if you haven't already, I would suggest you go out and like download the demo and like actually like try it out for yourself, especially since like the character customization is just like really good. But yeah, overall just like solid mode, solid way to like experience the game, and like probably like a really good stepping stone into like your first machinations in being a fighting game player.
Round two.
So now that all the news of the World Tour mode has sort of gotten like out of its way, we're actually going to talk a tiny bit about like some character news and everything that we got, because Capcom was a tiny bit generous and decided to give us a look at what the first little batch of DLC would actually be, which I don't know if you want to call it generosity or not, since technically we did already know that these characters were coming, since if you couldn't already tell and didn't watch the actual pre-release like showcase and everything, these characters are Rashid, who's coming out in the summer of 2023. I'm assuming it's probably going to be like a month or two, like after the game actually drops. I'd say maybe like a month. Um, Aki, which is going to be autumn of 2023. Akuma, which is going to be spring of 2024, and then Ed, which is going to be winter of 2024. I don't know if that's the winter of 2024 being the start of the new year, or if it's going to be the end of it, but either way, those two characters are not coming for a good while, at least until the game is like within a year's worth of its lifespan. Seeing as like three out of the four are returning characters, I don't necessarily feel like there's anything to really talk about. I guess we can partly talk about it since like Ed and Rashid are like still on the relatively newer side. Akuma has had his like whole gameplay shtick and everything been changed up throughout the years, so I don't really care out too much about him. His design is like super cool though. It seems like he's taking some inspiration from like his Oni stuff back from Street Fighter 4, on top of like some Goken designs of him like actually, looking aged and being older. We sort of got like we got signs of this in Street Fighter 5's design, with him being like a more lion mane like type of like hairstyle and whatnot, but I feel like he's sort of like growing more into graces with it, and also embracing the white hair and everything. So old man Akuma, he's gonna be in the game, not anytime soon, but he is going to be in the game. Rashid and Ed especially, I'm very interested in for what they're actually going to do with those characters, because Rashid was a like Rashid was a newcomer who I was not a whole heart of like interested in, but the fact of like he didn't really have all too much of like a big story presence in like the grander scheme of things, or at least like for the part of the story that we like really experienced. But he still was a really cool dude, and I also really wanted to like see a bit more of him. And since he's more on the newer end of the scope, like characters like Luke and everything, I sort of want to know if they're going to keep his like gameplay style and gameplay like loops in like completely the same like how they did with Luke, or if they're going to decide to change anything up. Seeing as he didn't get all too much like time though in like the grander eye of the community though, I probably would assume that they're going to keep him like relatively unchanged. They might give him a new tool or something, but as it stands, I feel like Rashid might potentially like stay the same. Ed is also like where things get really interesting because his like control scheme and everything was like drastically different from the rest of the cast and everyone else. Like he played a completely different game and he was like very aligned on like his weird button scheme combo thing that like I could not wrap my hand or like my head around. So I really do wonder how they're going to be moving forward with like keeping Ed in that same gameplay style, especially since with the different control schemes and everything that like you have at your disposal now, you have the classic mode, you have the modern mode, you have the dynamic mode, which like uses the AI and whatnot, which I'm not really a big fan of, like just in concept, but oh well. And I really do wonder how Ed's whole gameplay is going to like sort of change. He's going to still try and keep that same like three button layout like his original style like how he plays in Street Fighter 5. Is he going to maybe try and like conform a tiny bit to the rest of the Street Fighter cast and sort of play with a regular six button layout? Is he going to like fit more toward like I want to see how they're going to take his character and also just what they do for him like story wise because being the leader of like Neo Shadaloo I think it was called or like the new Shadaloo or whatever is like oh it opens up the prospect to some really interesting things and like I know that we're sort of like nearing towards the end of the Shadaloo like era for Street Fighter and like we're moving more in towards like the Illuminati era but like I still do want to see how Shadaloo necessarily like plays into it. I also just think it's kind of crazy how like Ed's design is like is well obviously it would drastically change since like he probably has like new values and everything after like forming new Shadowloo but like dude just looks like a regular guy on the street and I don't know if I'm like feeling this hair or not like it all looks good but like I don't know at least bro just having like the jeans out and about is like kind of crazy but overall, though, I really do think that Ed is going to be probably like one that I'm really interested in, and I really do want to see how if they're going to innovate on his character, if they're going to maybe add something. I really don't know what because I feel like Ed overall just like had a really solid kit, and I also just want to see how. Because if I'm not actually yeah because Jamie also is a user of like Psycho Power if I'm not mistaken, so I sort of want to see how he sort of takes the interpretation of like Ed using psycho power in like a completely drastic and different way as opposed to how it was like probably maybe intended to use like by people like M Bison, Rose, and like all other psycho practitioners. I already talked about Akuma. I talked about Rashid. Talked about Ed. The newcomer of the bunch, Aki, who I actually really wanted to be in the base game. Like I wanted all of the other characters to if they were going to add new characters, I wanted them to be like all in base roster as to like give the DLC like room to grow and everything. But Aki being a completely new character, we have no like knowledge frame of reference on for anything. Um, I'm probably the most excited for her simply because I was speculating with a couple of people about like what her entire thing could actually be and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but she has like this big like claw thing. She has this like really huge like claw thing that she has going for her. So what I ended up coming up with was she might potentially be a sort of like mix between Fang and maybe Vega, since a lot of people also speculated that she might deal with like some sort of like poison or something. But I have a feeling that like she's if anything is most likely going to be like a mix of Fang and Vega, also because of the fact that if you take a look at Street Fighter, we sort of or if we take a look at like Street Fighter 6's roster, we're sort of getting all of the original World Warriors and everyone that we've gotten back in like Street Fighter 2. You already know Ryu, Ken, Zangief, Dawson, Honda, Blanca, Guile, Chun-Li, Cammy, all etc. etc. We're also starting to get a tiny bit of the machinations of the other characters that were like added on in the iterations of Street Fighter 2, like for example DJ, but ultimately, what else that we're also getting is like characters that sort of fit into the mold of either those older characters from the original world, like Street Fighter 2 era, or some of the iterations of them. So, for example, T-Hawk, we obviously have Lily as his stand-in, and JP we have like M Bison as his stand-in. Balrog, obviously we're getting Ed, and then we don't necessarily have one for Sagat, but like that, I don't we might get Sagat as like another DLC character in like the second patch, and we also have another character who's missing from like the older like Street Fighter 2 generation, obviously being Vega. So with Vega being gone and like all of the other like Shadaloo originals like sort of being accounted for, I'm assuming, right, because this just has like where it stands and like how it sort of like is shaping up to be. I'm assuming that Aki is probably going to be the Vega stand-in that we get in the game. We might potentially even see Vega on a later on like date, depending on what Capcom decides to do with like the second DLC pack or anything. But I don't know. From everything that like from all of the knowledge that like we have as of right now, I just feel like that's probably the best bet for her character. And honestly, I do kind of want to see how they're going to like do it in the first place. Like what how her character is going to play out because I don't know if you guys know this, but Fang was not really the best. Like he wasn't really like that interesting. He wasn't really like he just wasn't that guy. And I don't know if like Capcom's decision of like, oh, we can see that like the gameplay style of like Fang wasn't cool, so if we put it in a dress and then make it a hot female, if that's gonna work. But honestly, I'm just more interested to see like how this character is going to play differently from like what her two inspirations might be, what we potentially might be seeing in terms of like story wise, because she's not really looking like a good chick. She's not like looking like a heroine of justice. So we might potentially like she might be a part of this new Shadowloo division that like Ed is like forming up. She might be like a member of the Illuminati that's like working with Gil. She might I don't think she doesn't have like the vibe of like a Mad Gear member. She sort of seems way too like elegant for that, like sort of like grittier lifestyle. But maybe she's working with JP. We don't really know what JP's like motives and everything are either, or if he even is supposed to be the main villain of the game. But as it stands, we sort of we're put in a lot of like ambiguity, I guess, into like what she's going to be doing or what like she's going to be adding to Street Fighter, which honestly, I'm sort of all for it. Like, I'm really interested. Like I've sort of like reiterated, I really am interested in like what they're going to do with her character and just overall like how she's going to move forward with it. And I do want to see more. If she is going to be a reiteration of Vega and Fang, then and like my theory is sort of right. I would like to see some like reiterations of other characters come back, or just like characters in general like come back. Like please, I will not I will forever be on the like Sean like boat. Please bring my boy Sean back. Like I would be he fits this like aesthetic way too well for him to not be here. Just like try and bring the like rest of the Street Fighter 3 cast into the game I since this is supposed to be like the most present Street Fighter game, and Third Strike is like the last game in the timeline that happens from this. There's no reason that we shouldn't see the rest of the Third Strike cast in here in some way, shape, or form. Like, please, I would love to see Makoto. I'd love to see Elaine. I would love to actually like catch up on like a couple like other characters. Like, what is Remy doing? Cause I remember they just dropped like a birthday thing for him on Twitter, and I was appalled, or not necessarily appalled, but like I was just straight surprised, cause I thought Capcom would have like just straight forgotten about Remy. And I would also just love to see like another I guess charge character in the game, like another like charge character sort of similar to Guile, because obviously we do have charge characters like Chung Li, DJ. I think I know that's not like the rest of or I know that's not the entire cast, but I know that we already have a couple charge characters in here, but I would like to see another sort of like Sonic Boom practitioner. I don't know, what would you call Guile's fighting style? Because like I know him and Charlie Nash, they sort of like made it themselves, but like is it like wind style fighting, or I don't know. Kickboxing or wrestling. I guess I can see that, but like what do you call his specials? Because that outside of like the names that they've been given, Flash Kick, Sonic Boom, whatever, like I don't know. But I'd like to see Remy. I want to see. I mainly want to see Sean, and then like as a hard second, I really want to see Makoto. Like the top three that I want to see in terms of like returning characters who should be coming back from Third Strike. Sean, obviously, Makoto, and then Elena, and then sort of Elena and Remy are sort of in a weird I guess second, like they share the number three spot because I just think bringing back Remy would be very funny and then he still be like incredibly bad. And I just think Elena is really cool. I would like to see more of her. We only really saw her in like obviously three, and then we saw her in four. But I want to see more of Elena. I think she's fun. But yeah, Makoto, like the two that I really want to see, Makoto and Sean. Bring them back Capcom. I guarantee you make a trillion copy sales. Like everybody would be very happy. But for right now, the DLC that we have, Akuma, Rashid, Ed, and Aki, though those are the ones that we sort of are being left with for the rest of this year going into next year. So be on the lookout for that. Obviously, I will talk about them. I'll probably do like breakdowns and everything of like how I do for the Tekken cast once we start getting news on like I guess Rashid's characters and everything since like he is the first one to be slated to come out. Which if anything, he'll probably most likely get a announcement or something at Evo since that is like one of the more bigger tournaments that is happening that Capcom is obviously slated to make a appearance at. So I think it wouldn't be, or I think it would be a pretty smart idea to have them like just go and drop that news there. But overall, that's the DLC. Those are like all of the characters that we have like and that's all the characters and that's the rest of that leak essentially. Or actually no, that's the entirety of that leak since once those four characters are added into the game, then the entirety of that like leaked roster will be completely done. We'll have the 20 characters and we might potentially have like another leak that just drops a whole like new character DLC pack, but yeah, that's sort of everything.
Round 3.
Now that we're done talking about all the characters and everything that's going to be produced, maybe they or like released and everything, maybe they might show up as like potential masters in World Tour mode. There might be some DLC to that, but overall, right? Because there's probably like the biggest piece of news that we actually have to talk about, which is Street Fighter, like or Street Fighter 6. They decided to grace us with a demo, which I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This thing is garbage. The demo is not like it's not good. For those who don't know, like for first off, like the demo was exclusive to like a good only PlayStation players. I think until like uh I think like I want to say a week. I'm not even I'm not like 100% sure. I know for a fact though that when like on release or on as soon as the showcase ended, PlayStation players were able to access it instantly, and then like a bunch of other platforms had to wait. I'm not really a fan of that. If you're gonna have the like gall to drop something like for a single platform as something comes out, then I feel like you should release that entire thing to the entirety of the fan base, especially since Street Fighter 6 is getting a like entire worldwide release on the same day. So it doesn't really make sense to sort of play favorites in terms of platforms. And on top of that, because I've also been like talking to people asking about their opinions on the demo and everything, and it's just the fact of lackluster content in the demo, which does not make sense because all of this could have been fixed if we had simply just given like an open beta or something with like all of the characters that we've been shown off, which we've already had like we had two closed betas that somehow had more content and everything inside those closed betas as opposed to the open demo that we have. And I get it though, like just the entire showcase itself was like its main goal was to really show off the limitations, capabilities, and overall just what you'd be getting in store to in terms of like World Tour mode. But like since you only really get like a for like a tiny bit of World Tour mode like in the actual game itself, it doesn't really make sense as to like why they would push for a demo just for that demo to be so lackluster. Because you only get two characters, you get a couple like the special modes, and like you get like 20 to 30 minutes of world tour mode, and then that's it. Like you can't play online, you can't like you can't do anything else. You can't play with any other characters. Like apparently the CPUs are cracked, but like that doesn't matter because the only two characters that they can play as is Ryu and Luke. And I'm sorry to like any Ryu or Luke players out there, but I don't want to play with I'm not a fan of white bread, and I'm not a fan of white bread with cheese. Like I don't really care for either of the characters, and they were not on my list of like characters that I wanted to play or learn anything about. And it sort of doesn't make sense because like if you haven't already like if you were unlucky to get into the closed betas, then I guess you can like start getting like an idea of how the drive rust system and everything works now. But like if you wanted to go and like try out the new content and everything, then there isn't really a point because you can just go and play like Street Fighter 5 since those characters are in that game on top of like a whole other roster of other characters that they're either being inspired by or are already in. And it sort of doesn't really make sense as to why the beta was so, or not the beta, but why the demo is so bad and has so little content. It really baffles me as to like how we could have gotten like shafted with such a like lackluster and empty demo for like one of the biggest like fighting games to drop like as of recent times, especially since when we've been given two betas that have in like way more content than this demo. It really doesn't make sense, especially since like also if you haven't like heard, there have been people out there who like have like cracked versions of the beta and have been running tournaments and hosting that through Parsec, and on top of that just like using that to like practice and everything. But Capcom started like cracking down on all of the people that got the cracked betas and everything, and like they're sort of like doing stuff with that. I'm pretty sure like Rofomonger dropped a video on it. I'll be sure to link that in the description. But I feel like this wouldn't have, or no, it most obviously was still going to be happening since like these people have had like the cracked betas since like the first one that we got like all that time ago. But I feel like this issue itself of like the people playing on a version that you don't want to play wouldn't have happened if you simply just gave them a version that we would like to play on. And I can sort of understand like, oh, we don't want to have the demo out for an extended period amount of time since the game is still being polished and everything with like still having all of the content. But if that's the case, then put a timer on the demo for its like active period and active state. That way, like you not only get a grasp on what the like overall consensus is with the fan base and everything, and not just like lucky people or content creators and everything else who got into the demo or the betas, but you also potentially open up your fan base to a new group of people because with this demo, it's completely free. They can be like, oh, hey, I've been interested in playing Street Fighter, but I haven't had like the time or chance to. There's a demo out for like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Let me see if I'm like going to really enjoy it. And oh, let me like mess around with the characters and everything, and then boom, that's another $60 right there in Capcom's pockets, like all because they wanted to like take that experience. And it doesn't sound like much, but once again that builds up, that adds. And like this probably isn't going to like affect the games like how will this affect the legacy of Street Fighter 6? It's probably not going to. But just the fact that we were given such like a stark and just straight like I don't know how else to put it, but like empty demo is like really annoying. And like I'm kind of not necessarily worried, but like it just kind of blows because I was really like happy and like I was really excited looking in, and like I was really hyped for this demo to come out, and I was really looking forward to it. And or like just some sort of like open beta or something so that everyone can get their hands on it. And then we get this like super lackluster demo that has like virtually actually no, not virtually no content, but like comparative to the content that we've had in like other showcasings of the game when it's in like early stages, it just doesn't make sense as to how they were able to move forward with this. And I this probably will be like the last like demo or like just pre-showcase stuff that we get for Street Fighter 6. Maybe, like I said earlier, they might show off a demo for like the DLC characters, but I highly doubt that since like you never get demos for DLC characters unless you're like Smash Ultimate where they did that one thing with Sephiroth, which like in hindsight that was like really weird as to why they specifically only did that with him, but I don't know. I don't know if Square Enix like was able to pull some strings. Probably, maybe not. Who knows? But we're probably this is gonna be like the last bit of like tell it or like pre-news like Street Fighter 6 stuff that we're probably going to be getting. So as it stands right now, if you don't have a cracked version of the beta, or if you are going to play Luke or Ryu, I almost said like Ryuk, the Shinigami. But if you are gonna play like those two characters and you like don't have a cracked version of the beta or something, then like congratulations, you won. You can play Luke and Ryu and like only those two characters and like hone up the matchup against like those two. So have fun with that. Uh, that I don't know, man. I'm just sort of I don't want to say that I'm angry because like I think being angry over something like this is kind of stupid. Like we are still very much going to be getting the game like relatively soon. Like it's only like yeah, it's April right now. We're gonna be getting the game relatively soon, so it's no use in like being angry about it or like being like like pissed or something. But like as it stands, it's just sort of like disheartening to see like how little of content like Capcom was sort of able to give us and then be like, all right, yeah, you guys are good. You can go off, play like the like half hours worth of like content and whatnot, and like that's really it, which kind of like blows. And I don't know. I just sort of wanted to see more of this demo, especially like going off of the notion that like they showed off so much. Like even if this was just like a world tour demo and like not like anything else, I would have been way more like I would have been way on board with that because with all of the content that they showed off in today's demo and like how nice and polished and everything looked and whatnot and like how they obviously do have like the resources to show it off and like give it out to the public and whatnot, it sort of doesn't make sense as to like why they didn't just give us either some sort of like demo for like one-on-one like character action stuff like against like other people, or just a complete like demo for the world tour mode and like give us like a full like maybe 2 hours of content for that, or like the big like story bits or whatnot. But whatever, it's already out. It'll be out for as long as it is. I don't even remember how long it's going to be out for, but it's out. Then this is sort of like the best that we have until Street Fighter 6 drops on June 2nd. Oh well. But with that all being said, that's sort of all I have like left for it. And this is, like I said earlier, probably going to be the last bit of like pre-release Street Fighter 6 news that like I talk about on the podcast. Since, like I said before, we are coming like very close to the game's like release, so we all have that to look forward to. I think it's kind of insane, like looking back at it and like getting that first teaser trailer of like like the super jacked Ryu and everyone was talking about him, like the really bad like Street Fighter logo that we initially got like the first go around, which I think was kind of crazy. Like God, looking back at the old Street Fighter logos, it's kind of wild because like that thing was garbage. Like, hold on, I'm really quickly looking up how bad and terrible it was. Like it was just it looked like clip art, dude. Jeez, like I could have made this in like Photoshop for like $20. But oh well, we got it. We're changed now. Everything's better, and I can really look forward to it. But with all that being said, thank you all so much for listening into today's episode of the Fighting Game Follies. I've been your host, Griefer Games, and I will forever be your host, Griefer Games, at GeekSkywardGames.png. Be sure to follow the socials, check the description for all of the other stuff and things I'm like forgetting like what to say for this outro.
But yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you for listening, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care and be sure to go play some fighting games.